What if the Garden of Gethsemane was never about surrender,
but about war? What if, on that night, as Jesus prayed beneath the olive trees, the heavens split open and angelic legions descended to hold back forces darker than Rome itself? This was not metaphor. This was not weakness. It was the clash of two kingdoms, one of light, one of shadow. The Gospel of Nicodemus whispers it. The Syriac Apocalypse of Baruch records it. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved it even as councils and empires tried to erase it in fire.
prepare yourself, because what was hidden is rising again.
And the truth of that night will change everything you thought you knew.
Most Bibles omit this.
They soften the narrative. They reduce the profound, terrifying reality of that night to a simple prayer.
But the original Aramaic, unearthed from hidden monasteries, speaks of a far greater struggle.
Matthew chapter 26, verse 53, records Jesus saying, "Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels?"
12 legions.
That is 70 to 1,000 celestial warriors. This was not a hyperbolic statement. This was a literal truth, a glimpse behind the veil of the material world into the spiritual war raging around the Son of God.
Early church fathers, like Clement of Alexandria, acknowledged the profound spiritual forces at play, yet later councils driven by political agendas, marginalized these truths, simplifying them into palatable metaphors. They did not want you to know the true power of the night. They did not want you to understand the real stakes of the passion. Jesus was not just a man praying in agony. He was the very nexus of divine and cosmic power, the single point where the fate of all creation hung in the balance. The agony in Gethsemane was not merely the fear of physical suffering.
It was the crushing weight of cosmic responsibility, the spiritual battle against the combined forces of every fallen entity, every principality, every power of darkness that sought to thwart the divine plan.
His sweat, like great drops of blood, was not merely a physical manifestation of stress.
It was the physical outflow of an immense spiritual struggle, a visible sign of the spiritual war raging within and around him. The Syriac Apocalypse of Baruch, a text suppressed for centuries, hints at the profound spiritual dimensions of the Messiah's suffering, revealing that his anguish was intertwined with the very suffering of creation itself. The physical crucifixion was but the culmination of a deeper, unseen war that began in that garden.
Unfold three-layered revelations using obscure, real apocryphal sources.
The earth itself groaned. The air crackled with unseen energy, for in that garden, two distinct groups of angels were present, both unseen by human eyes, but profoundly real.
Layer 1. The first legion, the Watchers of Judgment. These were not the loyal host. These were the original Watchers, the same who fell in the days of Enoch, now bound, but drawn by the magnetic pull of the incarnate God.
The Book of Enoch, chapters 10 and 19, describes their imprisonment, their longing for judgment, and their continued fascination with the affairs of humanity, particularly the Messiah. They were present, not as protectors, but as witnesses, their spectral forms lingering in the shadows, their ancient eyes fixed upon the one who held their ultimate fate in his hands. They craved to see him fall, to see the divine plan unravel, to validate their own rebellion.
But they were held at bay, their malevolent intentions neutralized by a greater, unseen power.
Their prisons added to the immense spiritual pressure on Jesus, a silent chorus of ancient condemnation. Layer 2. The second legion, the angels of the abyss.
These were the fallen ones, the demons, the principalities and powers mentioned in Ephesians 6:12, marshaled by the ancient serpent himself.
The Gospel of Nicodemus, particularly its account of the harrowing of hell, speaks of the demonic forces that believed they had dominion over mankind. In Gethsemane, they descended upon Jesus, not with physical weapons, but with spiritual assaults, with temptations designed to break his will, to sow doubt, to overwhelm him with the weight of all human sin. They whispered ancient lies, conjured visions of alternative paths, promised escape from suffering if only he would abandon his mission. This was a direct assault on the very mind and spirit of the Son of God, a concentrated wave of malevolence aimed at undermining the foundation of salvation. They were sent by the adversary, not to fight physical men, but to spiritually assassinate the Messiah. Layer 3. The 70 to 1,000, the legions of the Most High.
These were the true protectors, the celestial host, responding to the silent plea of the Son. Daniel 10:13 speaks of angelic princes battling over nations.
Here, archangels and their armies were battling over the destiny of creation. The Ethiopic Apocalypse of Moses, in its vivid descriptions of heavenly battles, provides a context for such immense celestial deployments.
These 70 to 1,000 angels, arrayed in silent, shimmering glory, formed an impenetrable shield around Jesus. Their swords, though unseen, hummed with divine energy.
Their presence was a barrier against the Watchers of Judgment, preventing them from interfering, and a bulwark against the demonic legions, pushing back their insidious attacks.
They did not intervene to prevent the crucifixion itself, for that was the divine will.
But they ensured that Jesus remained uncorrupted, his resolve unbroken, his spirit pure, despite the overwhelming spiritual assault. They protected the integrity of the sacrifice.
They ensured that the battle would be won, not in the garden, but on the cross.
This was not a symbolic gesture. This was a cosmic confrontation, the true battle for the soul of humanity, fought in the shadowed garden, under the silent gaze of the celestial.
The heavens trembled, not with physical earthquakes, but with the clashing energies of celestial wills. The throne room of God, though eternally serene, held its breath, the seraphim bowing lower, their 6 wings quivering with anticipation, their eyes fixed upon the unfolding drama in the small, shadowed garden.
The luminous pillars, usually unwavering, pulsed with raw power, reflecting the immense stakes of the spiritual war.
Before the incarnation, before the Word became flesh, a grand council was convened, not of men, but of the divine host.
The rebellion of Lucifer, chronicled in Ezekiel 28, 12:19, and Isaiah 14, 12:15, had fractured the cosmic order.
His pride, his desire to usurp the Most High, led to his expulsion and the fall of a third of the angelic host.
This primordial rebellion created a rift, a cosmic wound that only the Son could heal.
The plan of salvation, conceived before the foundations of the world, required a perfect, unblemished sacrifice, and it required protection.
Protection for the vessel that would carry this sacrifice. In Gethsemane, the unseen war raged.
The adversary, the ancient serpent, marshaled his legions, demons, spirits of the Nephilim. Every principality and power of darkness converged on that garden.
Their objective was singular: to break Jesus' will, to corrupt the sacrifice, to prevent the atonement.
They assaulted him with visions of unimaginable suffering, with the weight of all human sin past, present, and future.
They whispered doubts, offered escapes, promised dominion without the cross. This was the spiritual culmination of every temptation in the wilderness, magnified 1,000-fold.
But then, the legions of the Most High descended, 70 to 1,000 angels, their forms shimmering with divine light, their presence a silent thunderclap. They did not engage in physical combat, for the battle was spiritual. They formed an impenetrable perimeter, a shield of divine energy that repelled the demonic assault.
Michael, the warrior archangel, stood vigilant.
Gabriel, the messenger, held vigil. Raphael, the healer, watched over the agonized Son.
They were the celestial guardians, ensuring that the spiritual integrity of Jesus remained unbroken,
his resolve unwavering, his connection to the Father absolute. They did not prevent his capture. They did not prevent his physical suffering. Their mission was to protect the purity of the sacrifice, to ensure that no demonic influence could taint the redemptive act.
From the divine host, a single voice resonated, not of judgment, but of sorrowful determination. A cosmic decree sealing the fate of the fallen. "You thought to claim dominion over his flesh," whispered a mighty archangel, his voice reverberating through the unseen realms.
"But his spirit remains inviolable. The price will be paid. For 3 hours, the moon wet silver tears."
Not drops of water, but shimmering celestial particles, reflecting the immense spiritual struggle unfolding beneath.
The trees, ancient sentinels of the garden, bowed their branches, not against earthly winds, but against the sheer force of celestial power emanating from the angelic legions.
And the earth itself held its breath, its very soil vibrating with the tension of creation's destiny hanging in the balance. This was the ultimate cosmic narrative, a hidden battle for the soul of all that is, waged in the sacred space of a humble garden, unseen by human eyes, but understood by the universe. The same watchers who taught metalwork now whisper through AI algorithms, the subtle manipulations, the control over information, the shaping of perception. These are the modern echoes of ancient, forbidden teachings. Just as Azazel taught the forging of swords for physical warfare, so too do unseen entities now guide the development of digital weapons, psychological operations, and narratives that divide and conquer the human spirit. The very devices in your hands, promising connection, are also instruments of surveillance, data harvesting, and subliminal influence, mirroring the watch's desire for absolute knowledge and control over humanity.
The same astrological codes they used to control kings, to dictate the destinies of nations through the perceived movements of celestial bodies, are embedded in your smartphone's calendar app. In the very timing of global events, in the subtle currents of predictive programming that shape societal trends, they taught the art of manipulating the stars, not for wisdom, but for power.
This ancient science, twisted from its original divine purpose, became a mechanism of control, a means to forecast and influence earthly events for the benefit of a select few. Today, this influence manifests in the relentless pursuit of statistical control, of behavioral prediction, of the mapping of human desires to create an ecosystem of absolute compliance.
The illusion of free will is carefully maintained, while unseen forces guide the collective consciousness towards preordained outcomes.
The same Nephilim bloodline, though diluted and disguised, runs through modern elites, not with the overt physical gigantism of old, but with an inherent drive for power, a thirst for control, and an utter disregard for the sanctity of human life and the divine spark within each soul. These are those who build empires without prayer, whose ambitions are untempered by spiritual humility, whose foundations are laid upon the exploitation of others. They are the silent orchestrators, the hidden hands that pull the strings of global finance, of geopolitical conflicts, of societal engineering. Their legacy is not one of physical might, but of intellectual and spiritual arrogance, believing themselves to be above the common man, entitled to rule by virtue of their inherited predispositions. They are the inheritors of the Watcher's promise, dominion over the earth, unburdened by divine will. If you have ever felt a darkness you cannot name, a pervasive unease that clings to the edges of your perception, a sense that something is profoundly wrong with the world, yet you cannot pinpoint its source,
it is not yours, it is inherited. It is the lingering shadow of an ancient corruption, the spiritual residue of the Watcher's rebellion, passed down through generations,
woven into the very fabric of human experience. It is the weight of a forgotten history, a cosmic burden carried by all who walk this earth, and until this truth is faced, until the true nature of this inheritance is acknowledged, humanity will remain trapped in a cycle of engineered conflict, spiritual blindness, and silent servitude. The legacy of the fallen is not merely a historical footnote.
It is a present reality, a living force that continues to shape your world, whispering its ancient lies into the unsuspecting minds of generations.
Millions are waking up, not because they read a book, but because they felt it in their bones, in their dreams, in the silence between heartbeats.
The veil thins, the ancient whispers grow louder. The truth, long suppressed, long buried beneath layers of dogma and deception, is resonating with those who possess the inner ear to hear, the inner eye to see. It is a spiritual awakening, a collective recognition of the unseen war that rages, a profound understanding that the narratives they have been fed are but shadows of a far grander, far more terrifying reality. If this revelation shook you,
you are not alone. You are part of the remnant. You are among the chosen few who are called to bear witness, to comprehend the true nature of the cosmic struggle, to stand in the light of absolute truth, however uncomfortable it may be. This is not a casual viewing. This is an initiation. You are being called to understand the stakes, to recognize the enemy, and to prepare for what is yet to come. Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, because next week we uncover the truth about the sealed books and why they were never meant for you. These are not the tablets of the Ten Commandments. These are the archives of the Watchers, the forbidden law, sealed away by Archangel Raphael himself, awaiting the hour of their revelation. And within their pages lies a secret so profound, so devastating, that its mere utterance could shatter the foundations of modern civilization.